Hello, it's Alex Goodall here from Internet Professionals, and in this video I'm going to talk about Toolset, which is actually my most valued collection of WordPress plugins. I've not talked about Toolset before because I felt it required too much technical expertise for it to be useful to the majority of my subscribers. But actually a recent update, which I'm very excited about, has changed all that, and I now believe that it's usable by a much wider range of people. I'll mention what that is a bit later on, but first I want to explain what the product is about. And actually this is going to be the first of a series of videos that I'll create about Toolset. And they won't be so much how-to videos, although I might do a little bit of that. But they're going to be more as a way of explaining the big picture concepts of the individual components of the product. And this first video is going to be a high-level introduction explaining what it is, why I use it, who I think it's suitable for, and of course I'll mention what that big change is that triggered me to start talking about it. And let me start by explaining who I think should be interested in Toolset. Now, if you have a low tolerance for technical complexity and build websites that are fairly straightforward, and your approach is a bit like this: I pick a theme and plugins that most closely meets my need, and then I configure them as best I can, and well, I'm pretty much happy with that. Well, if that's you, then Toolset is frankly not for you. However, if you have a reasonable tolerance for technological complexity, but you're not a programmer and don't want to become one, which is pretty much like me, so if your approach is more like this, I would prefer to create exactly what I want from a collection of flexible features with just about zero limitation, provided I don't have to do any programming. Well, then Toolset is definitely for you. Or if you build sites for clients and your approach is, I'm okay with building very basic sites for clients and charging, say, $200 to $500, well, then again, Toolset is not for you. But on the other hand, if your approach is, I'd quite like to build, say, classified sites or directory sites or listing sites, etc., for clients and charge between $2,000 and $10,000, say, again, provided I don't have to do any programming, then most definitely Toolset is for you. So what is it that's so great about Toolset? Well, the starting point is that you can create custom post types, custom fields, and taxonomies. And if you don't know what those things are, you will do in a minute. If you do know what they are, you probably know that there are quite a few free plugins that provide exactly that capability. And in fact, the Toolset plugin that does that is also free. But the difference is that all the other plugins build on top of that capability in a very well-designed, coherent, structured way that between them provide a huge amount of power and flexibility. But of course, just having custom post types isn't enough because you need some way to display them. And that's the next main feature of Toolset. It provides a very powerful way to list and display the custom post types. And I'll show you exactly what that means in a moment. Next, you can define detailed layouts for individual custom post types, and also create forms so that front-end users can populate and edit those custom post types. In addition, there's a mechanism to create any type of page layout that you like, which is a feature that I really find very valuable, again without programming. And you can export and reuse collections of components in other websites, which is exactly what you want to do to speed up your future development work and, of course, to boost your profit margins on client work. And in the next slides, I'll explain each of those ideas in more detail. And I'll start with custom post types and fields. Now, when might you use these? Well, for example, to define portfolio items for an artist site, for example, where each portfolio would probably include several images, a title, a description, and a date, and those would be the custom fields. Or for team members on a business site, where each custom post type would include a name, a job title, a mugshot, a short CV, and links to social media sites, for example. Or properties on a real estate site, where each property would include a main image, an address, a price, perhaps an indicator of whether offers are accepted, the number of floors, the number of rooms, the number of bedrooms, special features, and so on. And again, all of those things would be custom fields. Personally, I've created a training site where each training module is a custom post type, and the steps within a module are also custom post types, which are subtypes of the module type. If you have a classic e-commerce site, then the products would be a custom post type. And in fact, Toolset has a WooCommerce integration plugin, which allows you to use the full power of Toolset within a WooCommerce site. And finally, for example, a site member of a dating site would be a custom post type, and they would add in all their profile details themselves. So if you didn't understand the power of custom post types and custom fields before, I hope this little slide will have shown you what they're all about and get the picture of how powerful they are. Now, as I said before, it's all very well to be able to create all these marvelous custom post types, but they're of no use unless you can display them. And this is where Toolset really starts to distinguish itself. And I can't think of any form of display that you'd need that isn't catered for by the viewing plugin. And the sorts of things that you can do are, for example, to display items either as a list or in a grid. And the grid, of course, can be fixed or it can automatically be adjusted to be mobile responsive. You can also choose to display everything, or you can set filters on anything you want, typically based on the categories or tags. Or you can simply provide a list of exactly what items you want to include in the display. Then you can specify whether you want a normal display or a slider type display. And this means you can pretty much dispense with any slider plugins, because you get the ability to configure exactly what you want with this viewing plugin. And then, of course, as well as specifying the structure of a particular listing, you need to specify what each entry in the listing consists of, which fields to use and how to lay them out. Again, there are no restrictions, and I'll explain all this in a minute. It will become clear if you're a little bit confused. And then finally, you can create what are called parametric searches, which is incredibly powerful. You can do all that without any programming. And in case you don't know what a parametric search is, here is an example from a real estate site. And you can see what sort of things you can search on. You can put things in boxes, and you can filter the display according to various criteria that you specify. Now, bear in mind that this ability to create searches like that is just one option within one feature of one plugin within the Toolset suite. I hope you begin to see the power that this toolset makes available to you. So we've seen that we can create very sophisticated structures and that we can display them in very flexible ways. But how do those structures get populated with data? Well, the default is that you fill in all the details, all the fields within the normal WordPress backend, pretty much like you would create a blog post, except that you normally would have many more fields to populate. And sometimes that's fine, but often it isn't. Because sometimes you need forms for users to populate the custom post types without having to log into the WordPress backend. So for example, if you have a company, say with 50 members, why not get them to upload their own profile details? And you can do that without giving them access to the backend. And perhaps your real estate site includes properties from multiple estate agents or realtors. And they should be able to add and amend their own property details. And what about the dating site? Obviously, members of the site would want to populate their own profiles, and so on. And that's what forms are used for. And a form could look something like that. So that's an example of a form from a classified site where someone is entering details to put an advert in. I'll show you some actual sites created with Toolset in a moment, but first let me show you schematically how some of these ideas fit together. Now, suppose we have a custom post type which is to hold details of freelancers. And the fields we want are name, description, photo, hourly rate, skill, and availability. And these are the custom fields. So we've got custom post type and we've got custom fields. Next, we need various ways to display the details of a single freelancer. Toolset does this by means of content templates. For example, in some circumstances, we may just want to display the photo on a blue background with a name in red, surrounded by a red border. That layout would be defined by one content template. In addition, sometimes we may want to display the availability of the freelancer in black, followed by the skills, name and rate in green, and put per hour after the rate and surround it by square brackets. And that layout would be defined by a different content template. And we'd probably also want a way to display all the fields, and that would be a third content template. Now the next step would be to define various views. For example, we could define a grid view, or a simple list view, or indeed a carousel view. And the view specifies what content template to use. So we could also have a parametric search view as well, like I mentioned before. So as you can see, all this provides a huge amount of power. And here are two examples from a car classified site. Here is a listing view, and here is a carousel view. And the final type of object associated with a custom post type is a user form. And this would look something like that, and would be used to populate items in the custom post type without the person doing the populating having to log in or have access to the WordPress backend. And a real form would look something like this. This is similar to what I showed you before. Now, I said right at the start that something has changed with Toolset, which persuaded me to start talking about it because it's made it accessible to many more people. So, what is that change? Well, it's the most comprehensive solution to the content template problem, as I call it. And what the developers of Toolset have come up with, I think, is in some senses very simple but hugely powerful. First of all, let me explain what the problem is. Let's go back to the schematic showing the relationship between the custom post type, the content templates, and the views. Now, creating the custom post types is very easy, and creating views is just a matter of getting the configurations right. But creating the content templates, that can be a challenge, because you need to use HTML and CSS, which a lot of people struggle with. And I have to admit that when I first realized this, when I first got Toolset, I was a bit disappointed because Toolset was being sold as a system for non-programmers. And although you never need to use PHP, I regarded HTML and CSS as programming. Now, personally, I can cope with some HTML and the basics of CSS, so I've managed to make good use of Toolset, but it always slows me down having to write code that looks a bit like this, particularly when it needs to be mobile responsive. And I'd much rather someone else take care of all that. And the good folks at Toolset have created what I regard as the perfect solution, which means no more HTML or CSS, because you can now use Visual Composer, which is the best-selling page builder plugin for WordPress, and you can use that to create your content templates. And I think that's perfect because it opens up huge design possibilities. Now, in case you've not come across Visual Composer before, let me just give you a brief introduction. You can get it for $34 and it comes with over 40 built-in content elements out of the box. If we scroll down, we can see what some of them are here. There's lots of things that you can create with Visual Composer. And there are also, if you look here, there's also 200 plus premium add-ons. So lots of people create add-ons to Visual Composer. Now, most of the time you wouldn't need those premium add-ons if you're only using Visual Composer to create content templates. But if you've got Visual Composer, you're likely to use it to create whole pages on your website, in which case some of those premium add-ons might be of use to you. But the point is, we've now got the capability to do very sophisticated things within the content templates, and in particular to do layouts that are mobile responsive. I think that's one of the biggest benefits of being able to use Visual Composer. You can create mobile responsive content templates. You don't have to write any CSS or HTML to get that result. So that's the change that has solved the content template problem, and I think has now opened up Toolset to a very much wider audience. Now, next, I think we'll look at some example sites. And we're here, in fact, on the Toolset website, and you'll see that, in fact, they've got 13 pages of reference sites, not reference sites, showcase sites. They've got 13 pages of showcase sites. There's a Canadian movie database, MediaStead marketing technology, a complete home design service, and so on. And you can go to the site and you can go have a look at all these different sites that have been created using one or more of the components of Toolset. But actually what I want to do is show you what they call reference sites. And this is the page on the Toolset site that talks about Toolset reference sites. And you can read here, reference sites are fully working designs which you can use as a starting point for client projects or your own projects. And you download a reference site, customize anything that you need using Toolset, replace the sample content, and deliver it to your clients. So this is now really powerful, and they will be creating new reference sites in the future. They've promised to anyway. So what have we got? We've got a classified site, we've got a WooCommerce site, we've got a real estate site, we've got a magazine site, and we've got a Toolset company site. And you get all these as standard when you buy Toolset. They don't charge anything extra for those sites. And if you look, for example, at this classified site, you'll see it uses the parametric search. It uses flexible ad grids, front-end ad submission, that's the forms. Use featured ads, optional paid ads, customizable ad details. In fact, let's take a look at the site. Here you can see another feature of the system. So I've got a choice now. I can look at the site's front end, or if I register on their site, which you can register for free, you can get back-end access to experiment with the site. That means that you can go to actually see how it's put together in one of their demo sites. So that's a superb way of learning how to use the components by looking at the guts of how it's all done. And I'm pretty sure you don't need to buy anything in order to do that. But let's look at the site's front end. So here we are on the classified ads site, and the first thing we see is this carousel, and this will be a view. These will be created by content templates. So there'll be one content template created for displaying each ad like this, and we could scroll through the carousel by clicking. I think it can auto scroll as well. All the things you'd expect with a carousel, you can configure it to do that. There is the parametric search. We've seen an example of that before. There's another view. So this is the most recent ad. So this will be a filter of the most recent ads put up. So another view. There'll be another content template defining that sort of layout. And at the bottom, it shows all the classified ad categories. And if we click on one of those, you can see another layout. So again, this layout, this listing layout, will be the content template would define that layout, and you can see all the cars in that category. And this one highlighted in cream, I suspect that one is highlighted like that because it is featured in some way. So there's a tag in there that says featured, and if it's featured, it gets highlighted when it's displayed like that. You might also notice here this post is also available in Spanish. The reason they've put that in, it's something I haven't mentioned. The people behind Toolset is they're called On The Go System. It's a company in Hong Kong, and they're the same people that have come up with multilingual versions of or the ability to have multilingual websites in WordPress, which a lot of people use. So they're a well-established company that really extend WordPress in the most interesting ways. And finally, before we leave this site, let me just show you exactly what you get with Toolset, because I've spoken about the capabilities, but I haven't said specifically what you get or indeed how much it costs. So let me cover that now. So in fact, this is the home page of the site, and to be honest, I don't think they do a very good job of explaining the power and benefits of the system. If you're pretty familiar with WordPress, you might be able to figure out from this home page what it does and why it's a bit special, although you might struggle for a bit. And if you're not that familiar with things like custom post types and custom fields and forms and so on, then it's going to be pretty hard to realize what the power is. And that's one of the reasons I've created this video, to introduce Toolset to a wider audience. What you actually get, we can click on Toolset Components, is the following. You get Toolset types, which you can actually get for free from WordPress.org. And that allows you to create the custom post types, custom fields, and the custom taxonomies. You also get the Toolset Views plugin, which allows you to create the content templates and the views for displaying them. And this is where the addition of Visual Composer will make all the difference. You also get Toolset Cred for designing the front-end forms. You get layouts, which allows you to create your own page layouts using a drag and drop editor. You can see some examples of what that might look like here. And that's something which you really would normally have to use PHP to create page templates. But you can do all that with this drag and drop editor, giving you huge amount of flexibility in the layout of your site. And you can have multiple different page layouts. The point is, you're not restricted to the page layouts which the particular theme you're using provides for you. Normally, the only way around that is to go in and create your own page layouts using PHP. Toolset Layouts gets around that problem. You also get Toolset Access, which I've not talked about actually, but it lets you create custom roles and set different permissions for the different roles for each type of content that you create. So for membership type sites, you can restrict who can see what and who can do what to different parts of your site. That's also very valuable. You also get maps, again, which I've not talked about. In fact, I've not used maps. But what it does is, if you have any sort of content that has an address associated with it, you can show that on a Google map as a marker on the map. So you can see example there. It's an obvious way of using it with an estate agent or a real estate site, or anything where you use an address. That's an extra that they threw in since I bought Toolset, so I got that for free without having to pay any more. You also get the reference sites, which I've spoken about. And you also get a starter theme. So far we've just been talking about plugins, but there is, and you can use these plugins with any theme. If you want to use the layouts, then there are specific themes that they've created integrations for layouts for. But other than using layouts, you can use the plugins for with any theme at all. But a lot of the time, what you want to do is start with a very minimalistic theme, and that's what the starter theme is, because very often the sort of features which theme designers put into their themes to make them special, you can do those things with Toolset, and you want to get rid of the capabilities that the theme has given you so that you can just use the Toolset facilities. So very often it's easier just to start with a very simple theme and just build in all the features you want using the capabilities of Toolset. You also get reliable support and active development. Of course, they would say that, wouldn't they? But I can personally testify to both of those, that the support is fast and very helpful. No question is too stupid, and I've asked plenty of those, so I know that they're very patient with people who have no idea what they're doing, and that was me in the early days. And I've not got anywhere near the limits of asking questions that are too technical. The guys on the support desk are really very technically competent, and if I've seen on other threads, if they hit something which they don't understand, they just refer it to the developers and they get an answer very quickly. As for active development, well, the product has been transformed with enhancements and development since I purchased it in 2014. There's always something new coming up, and this latest development, the introduction of Visual Composer, is, I think, going to transform the user base for Toolset. One thing not mentioned on this page is the documentation. That is very comprehensive. So there you can see it here. You get user guides for each of the major components. There's tutorials for learning Toolset, and there's power features, and you get tutorials on each of those. And extending Toolset, if you really want to get into it, you've got the Fields API and so on. So you can really get down to the nuts and bolts of it and extend it using the very sophisticated set of shortcodes effectively that they provide. So finally, the price. The most popular is $149. That will give you 1 year of access. You get everything for that price, unlimited websites, free updates for a year, and you can renew it at $74.50 for each year if you want to go on getting updates. Obviously, anything that you build using the plugins, you can go on using even if you don't renew. But if you want to get the update, it'll cost you $74 a year. I started with that, but I did upgrade to lifetime access. That currently is $299 per year. And so, as I said, I do now have lifetime access, and sometimes I feel that I've cheated them because I keep getting these new tools and the new features. I keep adding it to new sites. I keep using their support services, and I think I've probably used up $150, $200 worth of support time. But I don't have to pay anything more ever. So I think it's actually very good value, and particularly the lifetime access. But if you're not sure, then just go for the yearly. I'm not sure what the upgrade policy is. Maybe you just pay the difference to upgrade, or maybe there's a little bit of a premium you have to pay on top. To be honest, I'm not quite sure about that. So that's the end of this presentation, and that's where you can get Toolset from. Now, I should point out, of course, that is an affiliate link, so if you buy it through my link, I will get a commission. But I hope you feel that it's been valuable. As you can see, I'm really a huge fan of Toolset, and I do highly recommend it if you want to build sites in the $2,000 to $10,000 price range, or you personally just need more power and flexibility for your own sites. So if you found this video helpful, please click the like button and do make a comment below. If you want to be notified of future videos that I create, please do subscribe. So that's it. Thanks for your time and attention, and this is Alex Goodall logging off.